To order the regular, or the special meeting of the Building Board of Appeals for, today is Friday, March 28, 2025. Do we have roll call, please?
Yes, Board Member Paul Darling.
Here.
Board Member Robert Hart.
Here.
Board Member Kevin Cox.
Here. Board
Member David Arnstoff. Absent. Board Member Hugh Flack. Absent. Building Official Mike Lemieux.
Present.
Fire Marshal Redden.
Present.
Attorney John Reiser.
Present.
And Staff Liaison Juliette Harvey, present.
Thank you. So we have a quorum of 3 members. Next item on the agenda is the public commentary general. Anybody here to have general commentary? Seeing no one, I'll close that portion of the meeting. Next item is the approval of the agenda. Do you have a motion to approve the agenda?
Move to approve. I second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Passed. Next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the March 20th, 2025 meeting. Is there any comments on those minutes? Any corrections? If not, can we have a motion?
Move to approve the minutes. I second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Those are passed. Next item on the agenda is appeals, actions, and show cause hearing. We have one item on the agenda today at 620 South State Street. So the procedural process that works with us is first we'll have a report from staff about the variance. Then we'll have the applicant come up and sign in and state your name and give us a brief summary of your request for variance. And then we'll have the opportunity for staff to respond to that if necessary. And then the board will ask the applicant or staff questions. Then we'll have a motion. We'll have discussion about the motion and then a vote. So let's start with our staff report.
All right. The property at 620 South State is a multifamily R2 building. The building permit application was submitted on 7/29/24 for work described as modification of the stairs from the first floor to the basement. Plan shows a new stairway with tread depth of 10 inches with a 3/4 inch nosing and a 7 1/4 inch rise. No stair measurements were on the plan indicating rise and run of the existing stair to be demolished. At plan review, it was stated 7-inch max rise and 11-inch minimum tread depth per section 1011.5.2. The stairs not in a dwelling unit. The plan was required to be revised because the stairs on the plan do not meet the requirements of section 1011.5.2 of the 2015 Michigan Building Code. The applicant has indicated that they believe the stair geometry provided on the plan is an equal to or better form of construction. Staff recommends this application be denied as it does not meet the standards for approval. The code has not been misinterpreted. The provisions of the code do apply, and the proposed condition is less safe than the minimum requirements of section 1011.5.2 of the 2015 Michigan Building Code. The basis of this appeal suggests that it's proposed equal or better than the code requirements. Is not proven as such by the information provided in this appeal. Based on the requirements of the 2015 Michigan Building Code, staff recommends the board deny this request and require new construction elements meet the minimum requirements of the 2015 Michigan Building Code as required for existing buildings 801.3. Code section 1011.5.2 states stair riser heights shall be 7 inches maximum and 4 inches minimum. The riser height shall be measured vertically between the nosing and adjacent treads. Rectangular tread depth shall be 11 inches minimum, measured horizontally between the vertical planes of the foremost projections of adjacent treads and at a right angle to the tread's nosing. Winder treads shall have a minimum depth of 11 inches between the vertical planes of the foremost projection of adjacent treads at the intersection with a walk line at a minimum tread depth of 10 inches within the clear width of the stair. The petitioner states the property owner's desire to install a new stair from the first floor to the lower level of the fraternity. The current stair system has 9-inch treads and 8.5 riser heights and a width of 36 inches. A new stairway is proposed with 10 3/4 treads, 7 1/4 riser height, and a width of 49 inches. Section 1011.5.2 requires a minimum tread depth of 11 inches and a maximum riser height of 7 inches. The building has concrete and steel structural floor and wall components. Given the structural components of the space available within the existing building envelope, insufficient space exists to allow for a code-required stair. They request a variance from 1011.5.2 to allow step treads of 10 3/4 inches, 10 inches with a 3/4 inch nosing, and a riser height of 7 1/4 inches. The stair system receives high use from the fraternity members and guests. The current stair system is steep, narrow, and open to the lower level common areas, which does not provide a fire-protected means of egress. The property owners propose a new stair system that will be wider, 49 inches instead of 36, improved tread widths, 10 3/4 instead of 9, less steep, 7 1/4 riser height instead of the 8.5 inch risers. And with the fire door at the top and bottom of the stairs, we believe that the improved safety of this design is a benefit that justifies the variance from the stated code. Portions of the floor described as steel and structural being removed to an open area to install are being removed to open an area to install a reconfigured stairway. There's no indication on the submitted plan that adjustments to the stair opening could not be made to accommodate compliant stairs. The stairway is being completely reconfigured and as such must meet the minimum requirements of the 2015 Michigan Residential Code. The 2015 Michigan Rehabilitation Code for existing buildings level 2 alteration states in 801.3 that all new construction elements, components, systems, and spaces shall comply with the requirements of the International Building Code. There's no exception given with regards to the stairways in this section. Therefore, newly installed stairways is required without exception to have a maximum 7-inch rise and a minimum 11-inch run with a nosing that is a maximum of 1 1/4 inches. When measured from the tread depth shall be measured horizontally between the vertical planes of the foremost projections of adjacent treads and at a right angle to the tread nosing. The configuration proposed by the applicant doesn't meet the minimum requirements of the 2015 Michigan Building Code as it's required by the 2015 Michigan Rehabilitation Code. The appeal claims that the proposed is equal to better form of construction, which is not the case because the stair geometry proposed does not meet the minimum requirements of the code. Therefore, it is not equal to the code requirements. No case is made to how the stair geometry that does not meet the minimum code standards is better than the code requirements. This appeal should not be approved because it doesn't meet the standards for approval set forth in the 2015 Michigan Building Code.
Okay, thank you. Can the applicant come up and sign in, state your name, and tell us a little bit about your request?
Good afternoon. First, we thank everyone for taking time out of your schedules for this special meeting. We know it was an imposition, and we do appreciate you hearing us on this situation. My name is Alan Lutz with Elf Design Build Contractor, and with me is Dwight Hendricks, the design professional on this project and architect. To give you a little bit of background and context for this request, this property was built in the early 1900s, 110-year-old building. When it was constructed of solid concrete construction. All of the interior and exterior walls are poured concrete. The floor structures in this are concrete with steel reinforcing beams encased in that concrete. This makes relocation and any structural changes, very difficult compared to other more traditional forms of construction like wood frame construction. the owner's desire to provide a stair system to the basement that is more functional and safer than what is there now. What is there now is a very narrow stairway with steep steps and narrow treads. There is no fire protection at the bottom of the stairs. And so, again, making egress difficult in the case of any sort of emergency. We have examined how to create a stair system that is as code compliant as possible, and this is what is before you now. In examining other options, the structural changes that are necessary to walls that would be 12 to 14 inches thick concrete are so significant, or that to create a code compliant stair system would render the rooms neighboring that stair unfunctional to extend or change the walls into those other capacities. And so what has been presented is a stair system that it doesn't technically meet the elements of the code, but is a safer stair system. It provides a fire-protected opening landing at the bottom and is very close to compliant. We, again, want to reiterate that we've examined other, and I'll let Dwight speak to this, but other ways to create a fully compliant stair system, and it would be so invasive and unfunctional and such a negative impact in the other areas that it makes it not a reasonable consideration. So we're left with a choice of either keeping this narrow, steep stair system, which is not fire protected, or creating a fire protected stair system that is more functional and safer than what is there now. So.
Yeah, this building is extremely difficult to make changes to. It was literally built to be fireproof back then, and so I've spent, I don't even know how, like 2 weeks or 3 weeks trying to come up with any other version in order to fit any version of a stair in there that would meet the regular code, and it's impossible. Just because of where the walls are, it would mean completely destroying and possibly, they're all load-bearing walls is the problem. And so there really is no way to move the walls that would be required to move it like the extra 2 or 3 feet in order to fit any other version of the compliant stairs in there. So I don't know if you need like 40 different versions to see how it doesn't work, but it is impossible. We've had engineers, everybody trying to figure out a way to make it straight or bump this wall out or their wall out, but because the way that it's constructed, there's like this inner core of posts and solid poured concrete in the middle of the building. The existing stairs are up against that. So there's only this one small section of that the engineer said we can remove in order to, because it's like not a major beam, in order to fit this L-shaped stair in there. You can't go straight because above that there's a huge room that there's just no way you can like bump something like a little, whatever you want to call it, hallway into the middle of this huge room. So you can't go up, you can't go straight, and you can't go backwards because of that being where the main columns that support the whole building are. So this really is the only version that can fit, and it's so close. It seems way smarter to make something safe than say that it's off by 1/4 of an inch, and the existing stairs are really slippery, and we're just lucky no one's fallen down there and gotten super hurt, because I've fallen down there myself. So they're not good.
Okay, thank you. Anything to follow up on that, Mike? No? Board have questions?
Do you actually need a fire-rated stair in that location?
Well, I mean, if you build a new, you would, yeah. There's another stair in the back, but when we did the code compliance, in order for there to be, the distance from egress, then yeah. But we can't have it, there is no way of doing that the way it is now.
Well, no, I understand that, but I mean, it can't be treated as just a communicating stair from one floor to the other.
Close it at the top and the bottom of the stair, but not both ends.
Well, I'm going to get to something else here. I think, the way the door discharges at the top, and it looks like you have two doors at the bottom. I'm not sure that, and there are also supposed to be handrails on both sides. I don't know that you can get it doesn't look like you can get the extension on the handrails down at the bottom either.
That might, I'm not sure, I'd have to look at that, but even so, it would still be a million times safer than the existing version. I mean, that's basically the whole point of this, I guess, is we're trying to make something, I mean, we could just leave it.
No, I understand what you're trying to do. I'm just asking the question whether it has to be a fire-rated enclosed stair.
Yeah.
Because
As a means of egress.
as a means of egress, because it discharges up at the upper level
It doesn't
into
go
a
right
hallway,
outside. Yeah.
which
So-
isn't rated either.
May I suggest that there will still need to be a landing at the bottom of the stairs. So even if the requirement for the fire-rated means of egress were removed and it were open at the bottom, there would still not, if we met the code compliance, there would still not be enough room based on the added run of the stairs to provide the landing at the lower level.
Well, I guess that's what I'm kind of getting to, because if it's just a communicating stair from one level to the other, and you don't have doors, it looks like you could reconfigure the stair to get an extra couple of risers, like at the bottom at right angles, and do everything you want to do, but still meet the requirements for the riser run, code requirements. So
Well,
I
it's-
guess I'm also asking the building department, do they have to have a fire-rated enclosure?
I don't think it is required.
Wait, I guess I'm not, the way that we did it, you're saying that you think that we can extend, you're thinking that we can extend but we can't. Believe me, I've done it. The reason is how far it has to come down before it hits a solid concrete wall. That's
The headspace.
It's the headspace issue. I know that it looks like there's room at the bottom for more steps, but
No, I don't mean
you have to have the same
in the
rise.
direction of, well, the way you've got it, first of all, let's back up a second. So the stair doesn't have to be enclosed or fire-rated. It can be an open communicating stair.
It is that way now, it looks like, right?
I haven't done an evaluation in that regard. The only appeal was for
Well, because I think they're going to have other problems doing it this way and having doors at the bottom and not being able to make the handrails work.
Yeah.
And I really don't want to do this again. It's possible.
This was applied for back in June or July, but you haven't built it yet, is that correct?
Right.
It hasn't been- And often when we'll see a variance request, we'll get pictures of the existing conditions. We don't really have any of that. It makes it a little difficult for us to understand the rise and the run and supporting the, limited clearances for headroom and stuff. So that makes it a little bit more difficult for us to review as far as information goes. One comment about the staff report, he said there wasn't any exceptions to the rise and run regulations. in that chapter, but there are two exceptions for R2Us, and that's would give me more clarification on that.
So the RT use is for inside dwelling units. When I looked at the commentary, it speaks to inside uses like that for people who live with a stairway. With this being a fraternity house, I assume some people live there and other members are allowed to visit or can come and go as they please. And in the appeal also, they talk about that it's frequently used by fraternity members and guests. So I don't think the intent of the code for a stairway in this situation is that it be allowed.
So this is, I mean, the R2 use is either like a townhouse or a duplex, or in this case, a fraternity, which would be sleeping room. So the stairway would be considered inside the dwelling unit, correct? Because they're not individual units, they're sleeping rooms and
But it's
a common use stairway, it's like a shared stairway.
a common area. Like I would see it more as like a lobby in a commercial building or any area of a apartment building that was made for people to congregate.
And the use of the basement hasn't changed at all? That's still going to stay a recreation room? Can you describe the use of that space a little bit more? What happens down there?
That's, okay.
Pool tables, TV, what?
Well, there is a room with a pool table in it. There's a larger room that's a gathering room with a TV, and then there's a third room, which is a study room. And those were recently permitted and finished as those uses.
You know, it looks like there's a door directly to the outside from this space, correct? And that stair is somewhat code compliant, 7-Eleven, or what is that stairway? And door
Oh,
size?
that was also built 100 years ago, so.
Yeah, so it's probably the same 10-inch tread.
I would say it would not meet this 7-Eleven requirement. It's steeper and narrower than current codes.
And that's used kind of emergency exit only, that, or that people
Yeah.
can come in and out, that's locked all
No,
the
nobody
time?
ever uses it.
Yeah. And this reconstruction of the stairs going to be out of wood or out of concrete?
They're currently designed to be wood frame.
There's also a section in there, I see in the drawings, you call this to be code compliance for compliance with the Michigan Rehabilitation Code, but you didn't indicate what level of renovation this is. I think that was a question in the plan review, is it level 1, level 2, level 3?
Yeah, it wasn't indicated on the plan. It just referenced the existing building code of the level. Based on the reconfiguration of space, I was functioning under the assumption that it's level 2.
There's also a section in there that I think, that refers you back to, I think, Chapter 4 of the Rehab Code, about 403, that talks about, you know, when you do have limited spaces in stairways like this. And similar to the Appendix J of the previous code, when you have tight conditions for that, you know, there's limited, rebuilding of a limited space, but I don't know if we have enough documentation to confirm, you know, the limited space requirements, you know, headroom, the way the configuration of the stairway is.
You mean you need something, a drawing actually showing what the existing,
I think what the existing layout is, what the limitation is. You say there's a steel beam you can take out. You're already taking out one side wall because you're going from 3 feet width to 4 feet in width, so that wall's coming out, so.
yeah, it's on the other side of that
Yeah.
thick wall.
Yeah, so you're making descriptions of modifications of the structure, but then you're saying there's other things you can't change structurally, and it's helpful for us to see that in the drawing and understand what the limitations there are. So, you know, can that first tread going down, can that move back to give you
No.
a longer run?
No, it's right on that beam. They start the stairs at the one beam, and then there's another beam.
Yeah.
And so you have to be able to get the clearance underneath
Yeah.
that other
So
beam.
we don't see that with that. That's the stuff information that we don't have, as far as the structural things that you can't modify. It makes it difficult for us to review it, if you're saying that there's limits, there are things in the way that prevent you from modifying it, but we don't have that, information.
Well, I thought I was just supposed to show how it would be
It
built.
would be proposed and, if you're gonna go for that Michigan Rehabilitation Code, Chapter 4, that you're working within the limitations of the space, that you can't modify any further for structural reasons, that we'd want to know what those are.
If it would make a difference to the board, I think our clients would be willing to have this matter tabled today and submit pictures and documentation for you if
That support that,
if that may sway the board's decision.
Yeah, I think that would be maybe the best use of investigation time-wise to do that. That way you can come back and present that further, but. I mean, there is an exception there that, I'm curious about that, because looking at the R2 exception in the code, it doesn't talk about how it falls into R2 use, that's to me, this is the commentary portion of that. Everyone living there, it's just 35 people living in the house, you're saying, and then all 35 are probably familiar with the stairway, maybe, guests wouldn't be familiar with it, depending how often they come over, but that the rise and run of the stairway at 7 1/4 and 10 3/4 long, it's pretty close to a normal residential stair, so it's not like it's a...
Well, that's a question, not to interrupt, but I interrupt. So, what is the actual dimension of the tread? Because the code definition is from nosing edge to nosing edge. So is that 10 3/4 of an inch, or is it 10 inches?
10.
It's 10 inches.
Yeah, the
So it's a full
nosing
inch.
is 10 3/4.
So it's a full inch short.
It is, but it also is sort of weird how they mention it, that they say that the flat part of the tread is supposed to be 11 inches.
Yeah.
And so they don't say that, it's like, it goes around, sorts of vague about what that means. So we're 10 3/4, that's how much flat.
Yeah, so your tread and nosing are 10 3/4, not just your tread, yeah.
Right, I mean, there's hardly anybody ever has 11 3/4. Nobody does that.
Well, with 11, I think they're looking for the 11 as being the horizontal piece. When you go to 11, you don't need to have a nosing past that.
Right, but-
If you're less than that, you need to have a nosing past that.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so you don't have the 11, so. I
So
think we-
basically, it's the same thing. It's basically 1/4 of an inch. And the stairs right now are crazy steep, and they have
Yeah.
steel nosings on them that have completely worn down, so they're super smooth. So people, these guys are like falling down there. They have been forever.
Is the building sprinkled?
No.
No?
It is have alarms that are a smoke and heat detection and pull stations monitored alarm system.
It basically is fireproof. There's nothing in it except for like drapes or furnishings.
That is interesting because of the application, you talk about it being a 3A type of construction, and non-combustible would be a type 2 construction, so I find, unless there's wood joists somewhere, or the wood
There's
roof
no
is
wood
wood
anywhere.
roof,
Except for like trim around
Yeah, so that wouldn't be
window.
structural, so.
But it's solid concrete. It's crazy.
Yeah. So maybe you have a better construction type than 3A, 3A would mean fire-rated walls and combustible construction, so,
Yeah, the only thing over anything is plaster, which is also
yeah,
like non-combustible, so.
yeah. Yeah, so that has a potential value of fire resistance, so.
So when you, just looking at the, I guess it's the basement plan, if you were to take off 2 risers and have a landing at the bottom and turn the stair one more time, would would you be able to make the geometry work that way?
I think this is what he's saying. Put a landing here and then put 2 steps there.
And then the question is, do
theory,
you
but-
really need the stair to discharge both ways?
Well,
At the
the
bottom.
reason is there's no way to get in that room now. There's that wall, it went, I'd have to show you, but basically that's going to be the way to get into that, what's it called in here?
Utilities.
Utility room.
There's a big opening there, isn't there, or no?
We did frame a doorway here.
I'm just talking
Right.
about
Yeah.
If they cut this back to here.
Yeah,
That'd be the work on it, I guess.
Yeah.
looks at that, yeah, yeah.
Something here.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
turn the wall like
Yeah,
this.
yeah, 'cause they, yeah,
And close that off.
yeah.
And that's why I keep asking whether
Yeah.
the stair has to be, sorry,
Enclosed.
whether the stair has to
Yeah.
be enclosed or not.
Yeah,
Well, the one reason is they sort of want to be able to close that room off
are you showing doors there?
because of the noise, for one reason, but they wanted to be able to come, this entire time, you go down the stairs and it's open to the whole basement. And the idea was to be able to close off the door to the basement, since that's where all the loud things happen.
But you only need one door then, like at the top.
Well, there is a door at the top, but believe me, I mean, it's not the best for,
Well, I guess where I'm going with this is, if the stair doesn't have to be a fire-rated stair, and, configured the way you're showing it, and let's just say it was a communicating stair, and I guess this is also for the building department, would that help you with your geometry if you come down to the bottom of the stair, and instead of having the landing the way you have it, you cut back 2 steps, make a right angle turn to the bottom?
I'm not totally sure, because one of the issues with where it is, I'd have to do that in 3D. I do the whole thing's in 3D in the computer. The issue is where that landing is, the first landing. You go down to a landing and then you take a left. So that right there, that spot is the trickiest in this whole thing about the headroom. So if you continue down, there's a huge beam that runs like on this up and down the page next to the stairs, to the right of the stairs. And that's one of the main beams. So I would have to see if the steps, if you go down to a landing at the bottom, very bottom of this, and then you add 2 more steps, I'd have to see if there's enough headroom to do that.
So I appreciate the suggestion. If we can have a determination that this can be a communicating stair, again, if this were tabled, I think we could go back and examine that as an option.
I would advocate for that, because I think that's going to help you a lot, not only
Appreciate it.
in terms of functionality, but being able to meet the code the way you want to. And I think it's laudable that you're trying to make this work better, especially, given how the space is being used and the fact that even though the building is fireproof, that it's not sprinklered, but, there's another way, a safer way up and down from those levels. And again, I don't want to take this too far, but I do think that you're going to have a problem with those handrails at the very bottom.
And the intermediate handrail, because you're going around a winder that's going up 8 inches for it.
Yeah. So all of that is to say that personally, I think there's maybe another solution there, and it would be through not having to treat that as a fire-rated enclosure.
Okay?
Okay.
What is the ceiling height downstairs? It looks like the floor space is only about 1 foot thick, which means you have about an 8 foot 8 inch ceiling height down there.
Well, it depends for 9, it's about 9 feet where there's no beams, but the beams come down like 16 or 18 inches, depending on where you are.
at right angles. Still got the headroom. If they have it here,
Yeah.
Could putting in a winder help? Like breaking that landing into 3 steps?
That would, yeah. That, I didn't think that was going to,
Yeah. So the winders have minimum dimensions too, 6 inches around the corner. I think there are other configurations.
If there was a way to do it without winders,
It would be probably
it would be
safer.
safer.
Yeah.
Right.
Would be my
Sure.
impression on it.
Yeah.
Well, since it's not a fire, if it's not counted as a fire, going to a winder would help pull that stair back,
For the
giving
block.
giving you your 12-inch or 10-inch pass for handrail.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure there are other configurations that could work there. Okay, so any other discussion? You have a motion to table?
I guess clarity that they want to table it, right?
That's what they've
You would-
requested.
you would-
Yeah.
Given what has been discussed, I think we can come back and provide additional information that will give us a better chance to either develop a compliance stair or provide adequate basis for the board to make a decision on whether what we proposed is adequate.
Okay.
Okay.
Motion?
Motion to table?
So if you table it, you lay it on the table, and then you need a motion to take it off the table at some future meeting. If you want to postpone it to a date certain, you can say, I move we postpone to the April 17th meeting, or the May something meeting. So if you want to table it, which means just shelving it without a date, that's the way to do it. If you want to postpone it to a date certain, you could do that as well, whatever this body wants.
We give them 60
Well,
days?
I mean, will you be ready by the next meeting to have your answer?
We would appreciate the April 17th meeting. It would be on
In
that
April
agenda.
17th?
If that
So,
is your next meeting date.
okay, so.
And I would just ask procedurally, at what date would we have to turn in the information
Usually
to?
1 or 2 weeks ahead of time,
Ms.
so
Harvey.
this April 17th meeting is going to be very difficult. I would just say give them 60 days, and that can happen when it gives you some time to develop stuff.
well, but we're going to run out of time for being able to build it is the problem.
Yeah.
You're going to need time to also put the packet together, so you need the material like a week in advance. which
Yeah.
Put it in the packet and get it distributed and things like that. So just something to think about, the lead time into that, whatever
Yeah.
meeting you gentlemen want to
Yeah.
set.
Okay. We'll work with Ms. Harvey to determine the appropriate lead time and make sure that we can submit by that date, either by the April or the May meeting.
Is your deadline for construction or is your deadline for us?
The deadline relates to construction in that the tenants move out on May 5th and they move back in on April or August 17th.
Yeah, that should
And-
be able to build that in no time, yeah.
And
Yeah.
we are moving structural and steel interior. We're building a new 22-foot concrete block wall, things like that, that it's much easier to do it when the young men aren't in the building.
I propose to give it table for 60 days. That would give them maybe a week or two to get stuff up, then a week or two for them to process it. Because if we set to a certain meeting date and they don't meet it, then what happens? you know?
Yeah, no, I think we should just put it on the shelf and leave it on the shelf, and then when they're ready to come back, they're ready to
May
come back.
15th is the May date, if you need that information.
I didn't catch that. What was?
May 15th is the next meeting
Following after that.
for the May date.
So
So
we
we
can
got
table it for
April 17th and
that's
then
6
May.
weeks, is that what that is? April, May, so we can table it for, you know,
I'm sorry, are you guys gonna be ready in April? Is that what you're gonna do? So there's no reason to table this to May?
flexibility.
I believe that we can have the materials to the building department at least 1 week prior to that meeting. If there's
That's
a.
next week.
I'm sorry?
That would be next week then. You have to be first week in April if you're gonna meet the April 14th.
Yeah, but this isn't that much work.
So
I
you're,
suggest you postpone it until May 15th. If you happen to be done by April, then.
Submit it.
Julia
Submit it,
can
yeah.
always add it to the April meeting
Yeah.
if need be, but put it
Okay.
to that
Yeah.
date.
thank you for that suggestion.
Yeah, all right. So a motion to table to the May 15th BBA meeting.
Oh, second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
So this is tabled to that meeting.
Huh?
You haven't been a second at that.
I thought he said second, that's why I didn't say it.
That's why, that was the, yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you
thank
for
you.
your time today, gentlemen. Ms. Hartley.
In the event that I may not be here, what I was saying was that if they end the stair here and they continue it around the corner like this,
Yeah. Yeah.
which in section
Gives you two windings.
means like you still
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Oh,
Oh,
sorry. Move to adjourn.
a second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned at 2:10.
They ought to be able to do it.